Welcome to another episode of Bmuse. With all of the rain that we've been having this year in Brockville and throughout the region, I thought it would be a good time to talk about water and what it means for the museum. Now, where we are right now, you'll see I have the St. Lawrence River right behind me, but it also means that the museum itself is very much worried about water all the time. Being so close to the St. Lawrence with high water levels and, well, a low water table at this particular location, it means that it's always a threat. So visit with us today and I'll show you how we mitigate that threat at the museum. Although not at all glamorous, here we are in the basement of the Brockville Museum, and this is actually our first line of defense against flooding here at the museum. This section where we're standing right now is actually the 1840s addition to Beecher House, so it's the old stone house that greets people when they come along Henry Street. Just like old houses or those who are out in the country or below the water table, we have a sump pump, just like everybody else. But what makes ours a little bit different is throughout the museum we have about 5 sump pumps, and each of them are connected to our burglar system, our emergency alarm. So if there is high water, we do get warning whether there's somebody in the building or not. Here we are in 3-dimensional storage at the Brockville Museum. Now you might notice, or as we talked about before, our 3D storage is in the basement of the museum. Not because it's the best place to store things, as you might imagine, but because it's where we have space. We talked about our sump pumps before. We do have those over on this side of the building as well, but really to protect our artifacts here, we have everything up on risers. So if there is any water that seeps into the building, it's not going to get to the artifacts. Hopefully, but if there is water, the alarms will go off, we'll get here in time, and we'll be able to get it under control before it reaches the artifacts themselves. For museum collections, the threat of water isn't just flooding. Often it's the water that's in the air around us all the time that can cause the most damage to artifacts. So to make sure that we keep this measured and we have everything in the perfect humidity, we have thermohydrographs or hygrothermographs, depending on whom you're speaking with. And that's the machine that's beside me right here. It measures not only the humidity in the air, but also the temperature, so that we keep things as perfect as we possibly can. Because often for some items, high humidity can make them break down, and especially if you combine that with high temperatures. So for a lot of things, having a good HVAC system or heating and cooling system is really one of the most important things that a museum can have. Here at the Brockville Museum, and most museums in fact, it doesn't have to be high-tech equipment that's going to keep water and moisture at bay. It's going to be things like sump pumps, dehumidifiers. It's not all thermohydrographs and that kind of thing. As a department of the City of Brockville, the city also does look after the water level here at the museum as well. If we do have a big storm, they shut off the wastewater here at the museum, which means that all of that water that's flushing through the system isn't going to back up and come back into the museum, because that would be an awful thing to have happen. But it does mean that we have to be prepared. So having our sump pumps on alarms, checking those things daily, and making sure that none of the water is coming into the museum is important, especially with all the rain we've been having this year.